Luke's Way of Looking by Nadia Wheatley, illustrated by Ottley. All the boys in Mr Barraclough's class see things the same way, except for Luke, who sees things differently. When the teacher sees Luke's paintings, he goes ballistic. Then, one day, Luke discovers a place where he feels at home. The whole world changes. Award-winning author Nadia Wheatley wrote this text especially for Ottley, whose work here displays a virtuoso range of techniques, as well as the imaginative vision of his earlier books. Nadia and Matt worked closely together to create a story of empowerment. Luke's Way of Looking, Nadia Wheatley, Ottley. Luke's Way of Looking. All the boys in Mr Barraclough's class saw things the same way, except for Luke, who looked at things differently. Every Friday afternoon during art class, Luke got into trouble. When Mr Barraclough told the class to paint a portrait, Luke put the nose and ears in the wrong place. When Mr Barraclough told the class to paint an apple, some of the boys did green apples and some of the boys did red ones, but Luke chose another colour entirely. Even the other boys thought Luke was weird. Whenever Mr Barraclough saw one of Luke's pictures, he went off his brain. "Why do you do this, boy?" he yelled. Luke didn't know, so he said nothing. One Friday, Mr Barraclough told the class to paint what they saw through the window. Luke used his imagination. When Mr Barraclough saw what Luke had done, he went ballistic. He screamed at Luke. He tore up the painting. He broke Luke's brushes into little tiny pieces. "What's wrong with you, boy?" Mr Barraclough shouted. Luke didn't know, so he said nothing. That just made Mr Barraclough even more wild. The next Friday morning on the way to school, Luke turned left instead of right at the corner of Homer Street and hopped on the first bus that came along. He didn't care where he went, as long as Mr Barraclough wasn't there. Luke stayed on the bus till he saw a building that looked like an ancient palace. There weren't any guards at the door, so Luke went in. For the first time in his life, Luke felt at home. Whoever lived here seemed to look at things in just the way that Luke did. Luke wondered what Mr Barraclough would say if he were here. Even in the dining room, everything looked just perfect. After lunch, Luke went sightseeing. No matter how far he walked, there were more and more things to look at. He felt as if he had entered a whole new world. Just when Luke felt that he could burst with happiness, he found himself flying out into the sunshine. A bus to Homer Street was waiting for him. Luke sat in his favourite window seat. Even school looked more exciting than Luke could ever have imagined. As he got off the bus, he could hear the bell ringing. Friday afternoon was starting. Luke raced into class. He could see the other boys staring at him. "Where have you been?" they asked. "Tell you later," Luke promised. "This afternoon, boys," said Mr Barraclough, "we are going to paint a picture of this watermelon." The other boys groaned. Luke reached for his brush and began to paint what he saw. Mr Barraclough didn't know what to say, so he said nothing.